I have had the iPad Pro for about 2 weeks now, give or take, and this is by far the best iPad that you can buy. But should you? No, probably not. But if you're someone out there who wants the best all-around iPad experience, especially when it comes to performance, content consumption, and just all-around iPad things, then let me tell you, there's really nothing better out there. The M4 iPad Pro has the best display in any iPad, hands down. Apple's finally transitioned over to OLED displays for the Pro model specifically, and by doing so, it created a new tandem OLED display, which is basically two OLED panels stacked on top of each other. This allows for a much brighter panel than some of the competition out there. I mean, 1,000 nits of sustained brightness and 1600 peak for HDR is pretty good for an OLED panel this large. Now, the previous iPad Pro that had a mini LED display that had 600 nits of sustained brightness. So not only are you getting the deeper blacks, the higher contrast, normal OLED stuff, but you are not sacrificing brightness by any means. I've been writing scripts and watching tons of content over the last few weeks with this iPad, and I'm just absolutely in awe of how great everything looks. With that said though, the mini LED model, it was really good too. So is it worth bumping up for the display alone? I think that's kind of pushing it. You're kind of searching for reasons. While I do think it is a much better display, it's not significantly better than the mini LED for like most use cases. Aside from watching content, that's where I do think content, gaming, anything where you're taking up the full res. I mean, if you're just typing up scripts like I was saying and doing some basic work, I don't know that it's worth the display upgrade, but for content, yes, I do think it's really good. How about performance? Well, I don't think many people had issues with the M2 chip. I don't think many people had issues with the M1 chip. Apple this year skipped M3, went right to M4. This chip is supposed to have a huge impact on AI tasks and functions, thanks to that beefed up neural engine. Unfortunately, we haven't really seen many of these AI features come to light, but WWDC is right around the corner. I'm expecting a big iPadOS section, so I'm going to review this iPad later on when we get more features. Let's hope that Apple gives us a reason to use the M4 and all of its capabilities, but as of right now, I don't really think there's a whole lot you can't do on an M2 or M1 that you can do on the M4. Those iPads are really just as good right now, and the M4 does boast some crazy benchmarks, but nothing is really pushing that performance to the max right now, at least nothing on my end. I know there are others out there who can certainly throw a lot at it, but for me, I've tried, performance has been pretty much the same. I've been editing a few videos on Final Cut and messing around in Logic Pro, and it's been flawless. It was flawless on the M2 as well, so again, my performance, I really haven't noticed anything crazy. Now, before we get into the rest of the video, I do want to give you more information about today's sponsor, ESR. ESR is all about tech made easy, and they really do that with some of these incredible cases for your iPad. So if you just bought a new iPad Air or Pro, whatever the case may be, or maybe this video is convincing you to get an Air or a Pro, you could definitely want to protect that new investment. And there are two new cases from ESR that I've been using so far that I really love. The Shift magnetic case is probably my favorite just because of how versatile it is. There are 9 different ultra stable angles. You get 6 for viewing and 3 specifically for writing. And I mean, you should be able to find the perfect position no matter the task at hand. I also love that it detaches from the folio part, and you can just carry it around with a protective portion on it if need be. For those who need a keyboard and trackpad option, the Rebound Magnetic Keyboard Case 360 also has its fair share of versatility. Not only because it has a keyboard and trackpad, but also the ability to be docked vertically, which is really, really cool. The keyboard itself features backlit keys and a trackpad that allows for gesture support like tap, pinch, and swipe to navigate through iPadOS. Now, traditional keyboards, maybe you have a Magic Keyboard, you can't rotate vertically, so that's a huge benefit here, and you want to keep typing away, you can do that all with this case. Now, for more information about ESR, or if you're interested in any of these cases, along with some other fantastic accessories from ESR, visit the links in the description down below. Thanks ESR for sponsoring this video. Honestly, the biggest changes for the M4 iPad Pro, in my opinion, come down to the landscape camera, the overall design, and just how thin and light these new iPad Pros are, and the new accessories. So let's start with the camera. Really, the biggest change here is the fact that the front-facing camera has been moved from the portrait orientation to the landscape edge. And since I'm using the 13-inch Pro in landscape nearly 100% of the time, this is highly welcomed. It just makes sense. Otherwise, it's just a 1080p FaceTime camera with center stage, and it looks great for video calls, and it just makes it more natural being in that landscape orientation, so I'm very thankful for that change. Now, the thin body and the weight reduction is another huge change. It's been redesigned in the sense that yeah, it's significantly more thin and light compared to the last version. And it might not look like it at first glance. The last version was also pretty thin, and I don't think anybody out there was really clamoring for these iPads to be thinner and lighter, but they are. And it does make, using a 13-inch model in the hand not that bad. I don't usually hold my iPad that's this large, but the thin body and the weight, again, makes it rather enjoyable. Again, not sure a lot of people asked for this. I feel like they could have made it thicker and added more battery. The M4 is already crazy efficient, so battery life has actually been kind of the same as it was before, and it's razor thin. So yeah, we could have probably made it thicker and no one would have complained. Two weird things that Apple has removed from this iPad that I want to mention real quick. Number one, no more ultra wide camera. That doesn't really bother me at all, but if it's something that you used a lot, I guess this iPad just ain't gonna be for you. And the second thing is that it no longer supports millimeter wave 5G, just sub 6 gigahertz, which I probably wouldn't have mentioned, but this is the cellular model. And this is the first time that I've had cellular connectivity on my iPad in a while, and shout out to T-Mobile. I actually have been using that service, and it's very fast. I usually use a different company, and for this iPad I wanted to try T-Mobile, and I got like 1,000 download and some pretty good upload, I think a few hundred, and I'm very impressed. And so I cannot wait to be traveling around and using this. And if, by the way, you're on any of these carriers, especially T-Mobile, they have a lot of good deals, so if you want to add an iPad to your account, you could probably save a few $100s. Not an ad, just wanted to throw that out there. Very impressed with the service and the cellular capability on the iPad. Again, it's not millimeter wave, it's only sub 6, so something you want to keep in mind. Depends on which carrier you want to go with. T-Mobile has worked really well for me, for those of you who have that out there and were curious. But my absolute favorite thing about using the iPad Pro so far, honestly, has been the new accessories, specifically the Magic Keyboard. If you wanted to be slick and get the new M2 iPad Air in that massive 13-inch size, but then use it with the redesigned Magic Keyboard, you can't. You can only use the older generation, which is still a really good keyboard, but it's not as good as this new one. It's only compatible with the iPad Pro. And the keyboard is fantastic. The aluminum base here feels amazing. It really adds a premium look and a premium feel to it, and it just makes it all around far more MacBook-like than it ever has before. The biggest change for me also comes with the trackpad. It's larger. It's now the same as what you would get on a MacBook. It's got haptic feedback. It does not click if you don't have it connected, and it's so much better. And I feel like it makes navigating iPadOS a bit more enjoyable. Not sure if anything's actually changed there, but just that haptic feedback really makes it feel like you're using it on macOS. The keys are the same, although they feel better to type with. I don't know if it's just because it's new, but also you do get a new function row that has changed, and being able to adjust the brightness of the iPad, quickly toggle spotlight search or do not disturb, adjust volume, playback controls, that is all incredible, and I'm so glad that I don't have to swipe around in the iPad or use the, trackpad to get to those settings. Now, as far as the Apple Pencil Pro goes, this is something that you actually could couple with either the Pro or the brand new Air, but I personally just don't use the Pencil that much in my daily life. I don't really take notes or draw, and to me, that's kind of the two biggest things. You could use it for the UI. If you're editing videos, you could use it as another way to I just don't do that. So with that said, if you're a huge Apple Pencil lover, the Pro does pack a few more features like haptic feedback, a new squeeze gesture to bring up different tools and functions within the app, depending on which app you have, for like quick actions, and that can be more useful. And you can even do barrel rolls in some apps if you need to, which will definitely help with your graphic design and drawing ability. And there's also support for Find My if you happen to misplace your pencil. So it's definitely improved. I just don't use it that much. So overall, I do think that the keyboard really adds and makes the experience better than the current iPad or the previous iPad Pro. This iPad Pro is definitely an absolute powerhouse with some truly good upgrades, but not upgrades that I think people need to go out and spend nearly $2,000 for, or at least it depends on which iPad Pro you have. This iPad Pro that I have here is the 1 terabyte model. That's a little over $2,000. And if you're interested in getting the nano texture matte display option for an extra $100, you can only get that with the 1 or 2 terabyte models. You can't get it with the base. And also, these are the models that only give you that extra core performance for the M4 chip, all of which is Probably unnecessary for 99% of the iPad Pro users out there, in my opinion. But again, this model here was like around $2,100, which is absolutely insane. You're getting into high-spec MacBook Air territory or even MacBook Pro territory with these prices. And for me, I'm going laptop every time. But for those who are iPad fans, use it for work. This is going to be the machine that can do it all. You're future-proofing yourself for sure. You're going to be getting potential AI use cases and functionality with iPad OS, hopefully in just a few short weeks at WWDC, fingers crossed. And then maybe we'll revisit this whole thing and it could be worth going M4 iPad Pro. But as of right now, you're probably better off with your M1 or M2 mini LED, maybe even iPad Air. The new 13 inch is really good. We'll be doing a review on that one very, very soon. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss all of that. But I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Please let me know what you think of the new M4 iPad Pro. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to catching you around in the next video.